What's up, interview hackers? Sam here from ByteByByte.com, and in this video, I want to talk about the stories that we tell ourselves. And before I get into this, I know it's been a little while since I've done a video. We've been working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes, so I appreciate you all for bearing with us here, and I'm really excited to get back into this. And also, if there's anything you've been wondering, if there's anything that you'd like me to talk about, go ahead and mention that in the comments, because I'm looking for new topics. I'm looking for stuff to talk about in these videos, so I really appreciate any feedback that you have. So with that out of the way, I want to talk about this idea of the stories that we tell ourselves, because this is something that is so important and it affects us in so many ways as we are going through everything in our life, including looking for jobs, including going through that interview process. And some examples of these stories that you might be telling yourself might be, I'm not good at interviewing, or no one is hiring right now, or I'm just not good enough for that sort of job, or all those other people are smarter than me. All of these things are stories that we tell ourselves, and ultimately, all of these stories are really destructive, because what they're doing is they're actually changing the way that we view ourselves, they're changing the way that we think about our position, and they are affecting the decisions that we make. Right, so let's consider this example of no one is hiring. Well, if you think no one is hiring right now, then that's going to affect the way that you approach your job search. You're going to say, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't go out there and do interviews. Maybe I shouldn't put myself out there at all because it's just going to be a waste of time since no one's actually hiring. Maybe if you say, I'm not good at interviewing, you tell yourself, okay, well, I just need to spend more time preparing. I need to keep going and going and getting better and better. And you never actually go in and do the interview because you're like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not good enough yet. And so these beliefs actually shape our reality. It's kind of like that scene from The Matrix where he has to jump across the building, and the first time he does, or jump between the buildings, and the first time he does it, he doesn't fully believe that he can do it, and so he lets those beliefs get in his way and he falls on the pavement, right? So the same thing is true with these stories that we tell ourselves. And so if you're letting yourself believe things, whether they are true or not, that are not productive, I know this sounds a little bit woo-woo, but it's going to affect your ability to actually accomplish the things that you want to do. And so what I wanted to do is I don't want to just talk about this from a high level. I actually wanted to give you a couple specific steps that you can follow to start sort of changing your mindset here and start thinking about things a little bit differently. So number one is you need to actually identify the stories that you're telling yourself. So anytime you are going to do something and you identify I'm telling myself a certain thing, or I believe a certain thing, or I'm changing my actions based on a certain belief, you want to look at, is that belief, what is that belief, or what is that thing that I'm telling myself? So if you're saying oh, I need to do more interview practice before I go and actually apply for these companies, think about what is actually behind that? What is that core belief that you have? Is that belief that you're not good enough at interviewing? Is it just that oh, I don't want to waste my shot? Because a lot of times we have this sort of false narrative that, well, if I fail my interview once, then it's all over, right? That's another story that we tell ourselves. What is that story that you are telling yourself? So start with that, number one. Then, second, you want to break down and actually think about, where is that story coming from? And is there any supporting evidence there? Is there anything that's behind that story? Is there any reason why you believe that thing? For example, maybe you had an experience where you went in and did a coding interview and it went really poorly. Maybe you think no one's hiring because you were gonna go in and interview at a company and then they pulled out last second, right? Maybe there are different reasons why you believe these things, but you have to look at but if you understand the reason why you believe this thing, you can go back and say, okay, well, this is why I believe that, but does that actually logically follow? Right? So if you failed one coding interview, does that mean that you're never going to be successful at coding interviews? Of course not, right? It means that you failed one coding interview. And so this leads into the third thing, which is that we want to look for places where we are catastrophizing or speaking in absolutes. This is one of the things that I see people do so often, and it's sort of human nature to think about things to hyperbolize, right? Where you say I'm never going to be good at coding interviews, or no one is hiring right now, or I always fail my interviews. All these things are us speaking in absolutes. And what you have to realize is that in the world there, and especially when it comes to stuff like this, there basically are no absolutes. So once we understand what it is that we're saying and we see ourselves speaking in those absolutes, we can start sort of breaking those down and peeling back, right? Saying, well, it's not that no companies are hiring. It's that maybe not as many companies are hiring. Right? That's a much more accurate statement than no companies are hiring. Because look at a company like Zoom, look at a company like Amazon, all these companies that are actually benefiting, and with everything locked down, they're actually doing even better right now. Right? So it's absolutely not true that no one is hiring. It's just that some companies are doing hiring freezes, some companies are slowing down their hiring. So when we look at those absolutes, we can peel those back and say, okay, well, what's actually going on here? Let's understand the truth of the situation rather than what we are telling ourselves. Again, rather than that story, let's understand the actual facts. And then finally, once we understand the actual facts, now we can decide what we're going to do about it. So let's say that we take this idea that, oh, no one's hiring right now. And we take that false belief, we break that down, we remove the absolutes, and we say fewer companies are hiring right now. Now we can think about, well, okay, I know fewer companies are hiring right now. What do I actually do about that? Well, because fewer companies are hiring, I'm probably going to need to stand out more. It might be harder for me to land a job, granted, but now I know what I'm working with, and so I can say, okay, what are the things that I need to do to get even better? Right? What are those things that I need to do? How do I take that to that next level so that I can stand out? What are the things that these companies might be looking for? If we feel like we're always failing our coding interviews, then we might break that down and say, well, in reality, I failed a couple coding interviews. I could be better at this. And then we can look at, okay, well, let's break it down and say, what specifically do I need to work on? How specifically can I improve on this? And in what ways am I bad at coding interviews? Because chances are you're not failing every single coding interview question. You're just failing some of them. And so maybe that means, okay, well, I just need to get better at solving these really hard problems, or I need to get better at solving graph problems. Once we get rid of that story we're telling ourselves and we focus on the actual facts of the matter, then we can be a much more productive person, and we can really focus on getting ourselves to where we want to be and not holding ourselves back by those false narratives. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a better understanding, and hopefully you have some ideas of like maybe a story that you're telling yourself. And I'm really curious if you leave in the comments below, what is one story that you are telling yourself right now and that you're going to change? If you've watched this far, I know you have some ideas in your head, so I'm really curious to hear those. And if you haven't already, make sure that you go over to bytebybyte.com/50questions, download our free guide with 50 of the most common coding interview questions that you're going to see in your interview. I appreciate you joining me here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.